could briefly describe yourself.
Sure. My name's Chris Petoskey. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I retired from the Marine Corps. I was a gunnery sergeant, E7. I started in IT services. I'm from Batavia and enlisted from here about 2 years after high school was complete.
Why did you want to join the military?
Didn't have a lot of options. I worked here and then was working at 3Com US Robotics doing IT support for them for Palm Pilots and things like that, Courier ISDN. They didn't offer very much in the way of money and or benefits. So eventually I decided I needed to get my education at some point. So I went into the Marine Corps.
What did you do in the military?
I was originally a 4066, which was a small computer system specialist. Eventually, communications in the Marine Corps moved past Windows 95, and we started to become more unified in IT and call phone services, video services, satellite communications. So I became an IT chief at the end of my career, the last 10 years of my career. Basically what that entailed was supporting network infrastructure wherever the Marine Corps needed me to go. That was Afghanistan, Iraq, Afghanistan again, on ship deployments, workups, training Marines, making sure IT Marines were proficient in what they needed to do, whether that was networking, systems administration, phone, all the services that the Marine Corps has. A lot of people don't understand, but the military runs in IT-wise similar to a corporation. Anything you're going to see in a corporation, you're going to see in the military, because we have to have those same kind of communication tools.
What do you remember about adapting to military life?
The Marine Corps boot camp is extremely long. It's the longest of any of the branches. And it's that way for a reason. They break you down so that they can build you back up in what they need. As an IT guy, I wasn't infantry. I wasn't, ground pounder, so to say. So as an IT guy, that's a little different for me and what that looks like, because my job requires critical analysis and thought, and not just yes, sir, no, sir. I have to be able to make decisions and advise on best possible options. And not to say infantrymen don't, they do to some extent, but IT is not very black and white, it's very gray. But what the boot camp process in the Marine Corps does for you is it wears you down the first 3 to 4 weeks. It trains you physically and mentally to be able to have your drill instructors build you back up to what the Marine Corps needs from you, not what the civilian service or IT services or anything needs. The Marine Corps' number one premise is every Marine is a basic infantryman. So not only, I was a little unaware of this when I first started, but not only do you go into the Marine Corps to be an IT guy like I was, but you also go in to be an infantryman. And they train you tactics, they train you everything to do that job first before they ever start training you on your IT job or what you're actually going to do.
What skills or lessons did you learn from your service?
I think what the service probably taught me most, I like to think I had a decent amount of honor, integrity, and confidence before I went in the Marine Corps. But probably what the Marine Corps taught me most was dedication to completion. And by that, I mean, there's always a way to do whatever needs to be done. That's not always the right path, but there is always a path to find that way. We used to have a saying, some of my boys, no is just a long road to yes. So our focus and what the Marine Corps instilled in me was I'm going to find that answer to yes and how to get there.
What did you learn about yourself?
I think what the Marine Corps taught me most about myself, and it was very early on through boot camp and my first year in the Marine Corps, was anyone can do anything if they're trained and shown the way properly. Before I went to the Marine Corps, I could have never imagined myself running 3 miles. Now I've ran 3 or 4 marathons in my life. It's things like that the Marine Corps, through the boot camp process and then follow-on training, shows you things you think aren't possible or things you might not be able to do, you absolutely can.
What was the best and worst part of your service?
Best part of my service, I've always liked IT, and in the Marine Corps, it's not as sexy as being infantry. So we have a lot of Marines that come in and they don't have that drive or desire to do IT things like I did. There's some that do, of course. But because of how the Marine Corps is set up, it gave me the opportunity to do everything I could have possibly wanted within IT. I got to program, I got to run systems, I got to spend 6 days awake rebuilding Exchange servers and databases because we had state-sponsored terrorism that took out systems. I was able to do networking. It gave me the breadth of knowledge that I didn't even know was possible within IT, because there was always a hole that someone needed to fill, and I was always going to say yes to try to do it. The worst thing, it was difficult, and it still is difficult for me to deal with Marine Corps absolutism. And by that I mean there's a very rigorous structure of how the Marine Corps exists and operate it. And it's very infantry driven. And it's very A and then B and then C is going to happen. If B goes off the line, we will execute D. And IT services don't work like that. And it's very hard in the Marine Corps to get general officers, sergeants major, who are all mainly infantry guys, to understand some of the things that they take for granted when you get into a technology-based world of life cycles that move in 6 months, because IT refreshes in 6 months, and these guys are used to ships and planes and tanks. The life cycle of those devices is 30 to 40, 50 years. So those programs have to have agility in them, and the Marine Corps is not the most agile in that shape. They're agile in warfare, but when it comes to some of those things, they're not as agile.
How did you stay in touch with friends and family?
Pretty easy. I'm the IT guy. I have comms to everything. I own all the phones. I owned all the email. I owned all the chat services, all the satellites. So yeah, for me, it wasn't very hard. It was more difficult when early on, I joined in '99. So yes, IT existed. Palm Pilots and phones were getting more popular, but smartphones didn't even exist then. But if there was a service like Skype that started up, or when Facebook started up, I always had the access to it because I controlled it all. So.
Did you meet any lifelong friends while serving?
I've met a lot of friends while serving. Lifelong for me is different, though. That's probably not the best question for me. I only have one lifelong friend. I have a lot of friends, but I find I have a wife and 5 children. So they consume a lot of my time. It's very difficult to stay totally connected with people, for me anyways, outside of my family bubble when I'm not near them. So military is always constantly moving people and constantly moving me and my family. So I still have people I communicate with, but lifelong friends, no, that was kind of difficult. If I'd been a single bachelor the whole time, maybe that would have been different, but primarily my focus was my family.
Was there anything you took for granted about civilian life?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's always a perception when you're in the suck, as we like to call it, that the grass is greener. But the grass has been pretty green since I've retired, so I don't know that I ever took anything for granted in civilian life. Maybe that I thought there would be less challenges in me doing the things I wanted to do in the IT world. And to some extent there are, but mainly they're just different. So.
Is there anything you wish civilians understood about the military?
No, I don't think they can. It's a mentality that is ingrained in us. Like I said, they tear you down to build you back up. And people have difficulty wrapping their heads around unknowns, and unknowns can make people nervous or scared. And to the vast majority of America, military life is unknown. I think the stats are less than 2% people go into the military. And it's a very different mentality, and it can seem aggressive to others. But without going through it, I don't know of a way that civilians can really comprehend what it is.
What was it like transitioning back to civilian life?
Still am, 8 years after retirement. It's hard. I will say, throughout my career in the Marine Corps, I always look fondly upon my Marine Corps time and appreciate the Marine Corps for what it did for me. But I don't think I realized how much I would miss some of the camaraderie, some of the basic functions and structure of life that just doesn't exist anywhere else. I've been pretty adaptable, I think, and do okay with that, but sometimes upon reflection I do miss some of that.
Do you see any changes in what you value or appreciate after serving?
No, not at all. I still view the world the same way I view it. Probably because the Marine Corps forced that upon me. So there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. And even before the Marine Corps, I wasn't the guy that would do things the wrong way. But now I just don't. I refuse to even consider that option. So no, I don't think so.
Do you have any stories or details about your service that you'd like to tell or share?
Should have prepped for that one. Let's see, which stories can I tell? So I served. I'm trying to consider things that aren't classified or sensitive. My last 6 years of my career, I served for Admiral Winnefeld when he was the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and then I served for General Dumford when he was the ISAF commander, and then when he came back and became the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It was a crazy cool job. You travel everywhere with them in the world and provide them unclassified, secret, top secret access for IT systems, voice everywhere in the world, wherever they go. We would get hit repeatedly by state-sponsored terrorism. And there were many, many, many nights where I stayed up repeatedly, days on end, fixing issues and troubleshooting problems and rebuilding things. And it was very cool, very cool. Mostly can't talk about stuff beyond that, but it was a unique and wild and fun ride.